All right, guys, let me start up here. Once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over the College Aid Program presentation for the sophomores and juniors here for your high school. If you guys need to jump off early, top right-hand corner of every slide is my email. If you guys need help, you can always email me at any point in time if you have to jump off early. Now, let's start off today by basically going over the overview of all the items we'll be just addressing here. I'm going to be talking about the college landscape, basically what's going on with everything on the admissions side and also the financial aid side for the sophomores and the juniors on the call today to get you guys ready to understand what's going to happen basically next year. So for sophomores, junior year looks like, for juniors rising up senior year, what senior year will look like for you guys in the entire mix of all this. Now, I'm going to be going over some basic financial aid aspects, as well as how to create your college list, what the things to look out for, what works, what doesn't work, how I would basically put together a college list if I was putting one together and I was first new to this entire process. I'm also going to show you guys the resources available out there as well to help build the safety, target, and reach college list, as well as the SAT optional situation. If your student doesn't test well, where to go to find schools that are still SAT, ACT optional, as well as how it affects not only financial aid, but also admissions if you are going test optional. As well as I'll be touching on a little bit the financial aid forms, the FAFSA, the CSS Profile, the state forms, etc., as well as scams, frauds, things to watch out for, as also in addition to that, social media landmines and things you should be looking to avoid to make sure you don't basically, unfortunately, fall into the trappings of social media, and then that affects your admissions situation. Now, let me first start off by, as many of you already know, we have the YouTube channel. Now, on YouTube, this video will be on there. On YouTube, we have videos about everything. How to establish in-state residency for out-of-state schools, how to also look to get additional scholarship money when your student starts a college, as well as other ways to kind of negotiate, appeal, how to get the most from the colleges, how financial aid forms work, basically everything you can think of college-related. We now have a video for on the YouTube channel. To basically find the YouTube channel is very simple. Just type my name in, Ed Zamora. On the channel, you'll see a bunch of videos. I think we have close to 400 videos now on the entire college process. So we have a lot of videos on there. Now, if you guys are watching the videos and are commenting and liking and everything else, and also allowing the commercials to run, many of you know we use the YouTube video, the channel itself, for our scholarship fund. We do have a scholarship fund called the James Russo Memorial Scholarship, where every year we give away thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarship assistance to students graduating high school and going to college. If you want to be eligible, the video here for James Russo Memorial Video Scholarship is on the YouTube channel, which basically explains how our scholarship is given away to high school students graduating and going off to college. So obviously, if you watch the channel, if you watch the videos, you'll know how to apply for our scholarship. Now, all that being said, let's jump into, I guess, the abyss of everything you guys are getting involved in at this point in time. Now, when it comes to the college process, right off the bat, I need you guys to understand there's over 4,000 colleges out there. So the reality is there's colleges for everyone. In addition to that, if your student doesn't know what they want to study, or if they go to a college and decides not for them, transferring, changing majors is actually pretty common. In fact, most students change their major about 3 times. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. Also, many students every year transfer from one college to another, either because academically it wasn't the right fit, or socially, or cost factors also involved there as well for transferring, so it does happen often. Now, let's say your student doesn't get into their dream college, they're denied, or they don't get into their top 2 colleges. One thing to understand is that every college is basically the same. There's very little difference between most colleges, to be honest with you. So the reality is, whatever college they get into, as long as they utilize all the resources at the college, it will allow them to be successful. Essentially, college is what you make of it, to be honest with you. So if your student goes to the 3rd or 4th tier choice, however, maybe they give them scholarship money or they can do well academically there, as long as you utilize the networking opportunities, the career development, the internships, the co-ops, your student will be perfectly fine. Now, for most sophomores and juniors, you guys are still kind of early in the mix here for admissions and financial aid. So I'm going to be going over a lot of stuff you guys should be doing right now, things to consider, things that work, things that don't work, etc. Now, let's first start off by, as I mentioned before, if you don't know what you want to do, perfectly fine. This guy had no idea what he wanted to do in high school. In fact, in high school, he was a terrible high school student because his GPA was a 2.65. Realistically, if he was in high school now, let's call it, versus when he was in high school literally basically 50 years ago, it'd be a totally different landscape of what he'd be dealing with. There would not be a college around that would accept him at this level, basically. He would essentially be looking at going to community college, which is not a bad thing. From the perspective of if your student hasn't done well academically, or they have no idea what they want to study, or they don't want to leave home because they're still figuring out what they want to do with their life. Community college is a great avenue to utilize as a stepping stone to get into a four-year college or maybe figure out what you guys want to do at a very reduced cost, by the way. Obviously, if you're looking at the four-year colleges, pretty much everything starts at 30,000 and goes all the way up to 100,000, believe it or not, per year for some of these colleges. So starting at the community college will essentially in the beginning save you tens of thousands of dollars because most community programs, most community college programs, your starting cost is basically between $4,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 for the entire year. So virtually nothing to kind of figure out what you want to do. Now, if that's not the direction you want to go in, also realize that this guy here later in life figured out what he wanted to do. So another thing to consider is if your student has no idea what they want to study, no idea what major they want to do, that's perfectly fine. This is very common. In fact, I've been doing this 29 years as a college advisor. I've worked at 3 private colleges, and I would say that students basically fall into roughly 3 categories when it comes to admissions. One is category where the student has wanted to be a nurse or a doctor or engineer since they were like 2 years old. That's all they ever talk about. 2, the student that has no idea what they want to study and is open to say, I don't know what they want to study. And then 3, the student that typically picks either philosophy, psychology, or business because they don't know what they want to study, but they have to choose something. So realistically speaking, I would say majority of students, 70, 80% of students have no idea what they want to study. And that's perfectly fine. So if you want to utilize your first year or two to figure it out, that's perfectly fine. But the first 1 or 2 years of college will also be expensive. So just something to consider as you're going through the process is if we're not sure we want to go, but we want to go 4 years, perfectly fine. Let's make sure to choose a college that provides us the most financial assistance. That way, in case we change our mind or want to transfer, we didn't spend a ton of money at that location, let's call it. Or if you go community college, even better, saving a ton of money either way. Now, another reason I say that college is college, and basically every school is the same, is from this perspective. You may have been told that there's different kind of rankings for colleges based on majors in different locations, et cetera, et cetera. As far as the rankings go, most of the rankings really don't make that much sense from this perspective. In my eyes, there's 2 types of colleges, just 2. There's nothing else. There's the Ivy League and there's everybody else. And the reason I say that is because this whole new thing, this whole new PR advertising stuff you hear in the news and College Board and everything else about the new Ivy League colleges. There's no such thing as new Ivy League. There's the Ivy League and then there's not. Like there's Coca-Cola and then there's not. There's Mercedes, Ferrari, etc. Then there's not. And the reason I say that is because what you'll notice is your student can go to almost any college and be successful in life. And this right here basically illustrates what I'm trying to explain to you guys. If you look at this list here, this is a list of Fortune 500 CEOs and where they went to college. So which college produces the most Fortune 500 CEOs in the nation? Or I guess in the world, let's call it. As you can see at the top, we have, of course, the Ivy League, Harvard, Columbia, etc. But if you go a little bit further down, what you're going to notice is Indiana, University of Indiana, and Rutgers University, our state school here in New Jersey. These 2 schools, which have a lot higher acceptance rate than Harvard or Stanford, etc., have more Fortune 500 CEOs than MIT does. So that shows you don't need to go to the hardest, most difficult school. You don't need to choose the most difficult reach school you got into that costs the most if they don't give you any money, because it doesn't make sense in some cases. In some cases, it doesn't matter where you go to school. It's the work, the stuff that you do in the college, the internships, the co-ops, the networking, and everything else that will help you start off and be successful. So in many cases, it's not so much the college's name as much as it is what your student does while they're there. Because we have more Fortune 500 CEOs that came from Rutgers or Indiana, both technically target and safety schools for our students here in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, etc., the Northeast area, let's call it, versus MIT, which has an acceptance rate of basically less than 5%. Just things to think about as you're going through this whole process. Now, let's say I have no idea where to even start. Or my student comes home and says to me, you know what, I'm interested in looking at or I want to apply to McGill or Occidental or Swarthmore or Haverford. And I have no idea what they're talking about. Have never even heard of these colleges. Very simple. You can do 2 things. Go here to College Board. On the top right-hand corner, plug in any school's name, and the school's profile will pop up. Now, this website here is a great starting tool also if you have no idea where to start, but you have some idea as far as a major or location, or if you're looking to even build your list of what colleges are going to be reach colleges, difficult to get into, target schools, 50-50 chance of getting into, or safety schools that we can get into as well. This right here, this website will also help you. Collegeboard.org, that website down there, this website should be utilized by the parent as much as the student, by the way. So it's not just the student. One of the biggest errors I see every year from parents and students doing this, the college process, let's call it, is that the parents say to the student, go find the colleges. What that basically means is create whatever list you want. And then later on, a few months down the road, 6, 9, 12 months down the road, we'll figure out a way of paying for it. That's not the way you do this. You both go in as a group right from the get-go, figuring out, is the college list correct from this beginning part, not letting the student do their part and then the parent. This should be a group project all together, both of you, the admissions and the financial aid part. So let's say we have a school in mind, and a student comes home and says, you know what, I'm interested in this college. You can just write that school down as a parent, jump on a college board, plug it in the top right where it says search up there, and what pops up is a school's profile. I have here BU, Boston University, because in the Northeast here, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. This is a very popular college, obviously. And the benefit here is when I plug in the school's name, right at the top, as you can see here in the profile, if I click on admissions, as I have already, it's going to tell me how difficult the school is to get into. And then based on the metrics of this page here for admissions, I can then deem if this school is going to be a reach college for us, difficult to get into, a target school, basically 50-50 chance of getting accepted, or a safety school, very likely we're going to get in. This will also tell me what kind of SAT scores I need, ACT scores I need, GPA they're looking for accepted students. Here, it's also giving me even more information because if I click on the tab next to academics, next to the admissions, the academic tab, if I click on that, it's going to tell me what majors are available. What do they offer? Accounting, business, engineering, etc. I can make sure that whatever major my student's considering is offered at this college. As well as on the cost tab next to the academics, it will give me a breakdown of what the college costs. It's going to show me the tuition, room, board, books, transportation costs, miscellaneous costs. Give me a whole breakdown of what that college costs, everything included for one academic year. In addition to that, on the cost side, it will also tell me what financial aid forms they want at this college. Are they only looking for the FAFSA, which is very easy form now to fill out, 45, 50 questions, or do they have institutional forms they need from me? Or do they want the CSS Profile form, a second, more in-depth form, which typically ranges from 250 to 350 questions, a lot more intrusive. Also, it's going to tell me on there, it's going to give me a link to that school's net price calculator. The net price calculator is very important for all of you because each school's net price calculator will let you know how much a school is going to cost you guys if you attend, what they're going to be able to give you in grants and scholarships before your student even applies. You can do their calculator to see, is this school within the financial constraints of what we feel comfortable? And if it's not, maybe we take it off the list. Maybe we don't visit because it doesn't make any sense if financially we don't feel comfortable applying for the school and then paying for the tuition and cost later on. So College Board, great place to go, great wealth of information. It's going to help you guys. Now, as I mentioned before, every school has the net price calculators now. The net price calculators are basically the easiest tool to utilize to be able to make sure the school falls into the category of affordability for you guys. Now, everyone's affordability is different, so everyone's situation will be different, but this is the key to figuring out, does the college make sense for us to even apply, visit, etc. Every net price calculator is going to ask you roughly 15 to 20 questions. They're straightforward, right to the point questions. Questions like, what did you make last year? How much do you have in checking? How much do you have in savings? How much does a student make last year if they worked, etc. It will also ask you on many of these net price calculators what the student's GPA is. If they're taking any high-level, college-level courses, IBs, APs, dual credit courses, etc. It will take all this information and let you know if your student attends that college, before you even apply, by the way, you can do this, how much they can give you in grant money and how much they can give you in scholarship money based on your academic profile of your student. These two things can tell you whether or not it makes sense for you guys to apply to that college, because you'll know if that college is affordable or not. Now, when you guys are filling out the net price calculators, for the junior students, you should be using 2024 taxes. Because for junior students on the call, 2024 taxes are the tax year they're going to use for your FAFSA, the first form you guys filled out, in senior year in October. Now, for sophomores, you'll be using 2025 taxes, so the tax year we're in right now. you guys will essentially have more time to figure out your taxes to kind of hopefully minimize or maximize, let's call it, your opportunities for financial aid, where the 24 taxes are either done or going to be done pretty quickly for the juniors. And once again, for juniors going into senior year next year, 25 fall, the financial aid forms, the FAFSA, which every school needs, and the CSS Profile, which some schools need in addition to the FAFSA, will be available starting October 1st. Okay, so nobody's filling out any financial aid forms as of yet. Now, let's talk about SAT, ACT optional. If you're considering, or if your student doesn't test well, let's call it, then I would be going right here to this website. On fairtest.org/university/optional, down there you can see the link. This is a great place to go if you're looking to go test optional, or if you're not sure if you need to go test optional, which schools are still test optional available, for you to be able to apply without having any test scores in hand, let's call it, or sending them, let's put it that way. Now, one thing I would consider, though, is if you do go on here and you do build your list as SAT optional, I would definitely call the school's admissions office and ask them, if we're going SAT, ACT optional, does that affect scholarship consideration? Not every school does, but some schools do, unfortunately, reduce or eliminate scholarship eligibility if you're not sending SAT or ACT scores. So going optional is not just affecting admissions, it's also affecting the financial aid aspects as well for some of you guys. Now, let's talk about building the college list from the traditional, I guess, foundational way everyone looks at it from. We have our reach schools, the dream colleges, more difficult to get into. Then we have the target schools, which are basically 50-50 chances of getting into. And then the safety schools, which let's call it, let's say the backup scenarios in case nothing works out. And that's how everyone basically sees this. But the reality is your safety schools should be provided as much demonstrated interest, as much thought process as the target and reach colleges. And let me explain to you why. Since your schools on the safety level are basically you're going to get in scenarios, the question should really be, since we're already getting in, and we know we're going to get in, what other opportunities at this college for scholarship consideration? Because if we're already going to get in, then the goal should be building a safety list of schools where scholarship money is going to be at the highest possible level for two reasons. Number one, let's say a student falls in love with a safety school and they want to go there and be a big fish in a small pond scenario, let's call it. Or it offers a major or a program or something that they want in their educational path towards career, whatever it may be. Then the benefit is you're getting a great education at a lower price. Or second, the safety schools can be used as leverage for the target and reach colleges to ask for more scholarship consideration. Where your reach school, maybe you got in and they said, look, we like you and we're going to give you a $10,000 scholarship. Your safety school says, we really, really like you. You got in and we're going to give you a $30,000 scholarship. I'd go back to the other school if you want to go there and say, look, we want to go here. You guys give us 10. The other school we're looking at gave us 30. Can you increase your scholarship numbers to get closer to the other school? That way we can make the decision that makes the most sense for us. Yes or no? That way you're looking at the safety schools from two perspectives. A great backup from an educational perspective and affordability perspective, and two, the ability to negotiate with other colleges with higher scholarship amounts. That's the way you should be building the college list, not just my backup, nothing worked out scenario safety list. That's not the way to look at it. Now, let's talk about applying to colleges and how you apply now. Before like 30 years ago, you basically had regular application and you had early decision, and that was pretty much it. Now we have regular, rolling, early action 1, early action 2, restricted early action, first choice, early decision 1, early decision 2, and junior transfer. So you have like 8 to 9 different ways to apply. But realistically, to break it down to easy, understandable scenario here, you have 2 criteria. You have binding and non-binding. Binding means you get in, you got to go. No matter who else accepts you, that's the college you're going to. And that's typically early decision 1 and 2. So if you do early decision 1 and 2, that means you got to go if you get accepted. And I always get the question, well, Ed, if we do early decision, which enhances, in many cases, increases the chance of getting in, percentage-wise, does the school just say to us, we got you and we're not going to give you any financial aid? That rarely ever happens, to be honest with you. Most colleges that do early decision are typically pretty generous. But if you're looking at the early decision, I would definitely be doing the net price calculators to make sure the college is in our realm, our family situation, our affordability, it falls into that list of, yes, it's affordable for us to go forward with the early decision. Now, everything else, early action, restricted early action, regular, rolling, etc., this is not binding. So if your student gets accepted, they don't have to go. Either way, that's what everything breaks down to in the world of admissions. But either if I'm doing early decision or if I'm not, I'm always doing a net price calculator, feel comfortable knowing I have a number based on the school's calculations of our financial situation and the student's academic profile of something that makes it affordable for us to go here. Now, let's talk about financial aid questions. And the reason I say questions is because I know in the beginning I told you guys that the FAFSA form for you guys would be available pretty much in October of senior year. So for juniors, this October 2025, you'll be using your 24 taxes to start your financial aid forms. For sophomores, 2 years from now, October 1st of 2026, you'll be doing your financial aid forms. However, when you start doing the financial aid forms in October, is not the first time you're asked financial aid questions. As you can see here, an application called the Common App, which every student will be doing very likely over the summer for juniors, and then another year or so for the sophomores in your junior year, rising up to senior year. The Common App has a question now, and it's had this question for a while, by the way. And the question is down below, you can see down there, it says at the bottom, highlighted in blue, do you intend to apply for need-based financial aid? And what it's basically asking you guys, and I get parents asking me all the time, or basically sending me messages, hey, Ed, we saw this question in the Common App over August when we're filling it out. Does this mean they're using this against us if we're asking for financial assistance for admissions consideration? And the answer is yes and no. And this is why I say yes and no. If you see this question for a college your student's applying to, if you want to know how much weight is being held by that question of being accepted, the easiest thing to do is call the school's admissions office and financial aid office and ask them both the same question. Is your school need aware or is your school need blind? If they say their school is need aware, that means they are looking at your ability to pay for college as part of the consideration to be accepted. If they say they're need blind, that means they don't care if you guys can afford it or not, or asking for aid. Need blind schools do not care about this whatsoever. So if they're need aware, it is a component they do consider in the admissions process. Now, the way I look at it is very simple. If your school says, yes, we're need aware, we're looking at your ability, and you know you want to go there, and you know you need financial assistance, I would always say, yes, we're applying for need-based financial aid. Because the worst thing you can do is get accepted and have no money and need money to have that student go there, versus not getting accepted and having no idea why you didn't get accepted. Because they're not going to say to you, we would have let you guys in, but you guys didn't have enough money to pay us. They're not going to say that. They're just going to say what they say in every denial letter, which is, thank you for applying, record number of applications, good luck in your endeavors, et cetera, et cetera. So the same letter for the last 30 years. So if I need help, I'm always indicating, yes, I'm looking for financial assistance. Now, let's talk about the college visit. And from my perspective, and I've probably done, I don't even know, 25, 30, 40, 50, I've lost track, open houses, college fairs at the colleges I've worked at. And I can guarantee that 95, 99% of students and parents do the college visit wrong. And let me explain to you what I mean by wrong. When you have a college tour or visit or open house established and you're basically signed up for it, you need to ask, number one, will I be able to sit down with admissions and financial aid representative on a one-on-one basis? If the answer is yes, then you will do number two, the second step here that almost nobody does, and this is where everyone screws up. If you're able to sit down with admissions and financial aid people, you will bring these items with you, and I guarantee you, like, no one else is going to bring this stuff, but you will. Number one, a copy of the student's high school transcript, which you can get from the guidance office, or you can get from your scores, or you can get from Naviance. You want a transcript showing not just the classes they've taken and the grades they've gotten, but also next year's courses available, so then that way they can evaluate that as well. Two, any test score. I mean, any test score. SAT, ACT, PSAT. You can even bring a diagnostic test that you've done for an SAT tutor, whether it be SAT or ACT, just to have a test there available to show them what score you're going to be getting or close to getting. Third, a copy of the student's resume. Now, what I mean by resume, it could just be a breakdown of just bulletins. So clubs, sports, community service, volunteer work, achievements, that kind of stuff. Very easy, doesn't have to be professional, just those three things. And fourth, a copy of the already completed PDF of the student's net price calculator. If you have these four things, sit down with admissions and say, here's our transcript, here's our testing, here's our resume. Would we get accepted here? How would you apply? Does early decision make sense for us? Maybe early decision two. Do you think we have enough rigor to our schedule? Is our SAT good? Is our ACT better? Would you suggest taking the test again? This is the person that reviews your application for acceptance. This is exactly the person you want to ask these questions to. That's why you bring these documents with you. That's one. How do we apply? Do we have a chance? That's what we're figuring out. Two, are we scholarship eligible? Admissions is the one department that gives you guys scholarship money, by the way. Financially, it has nothing to do with scholarship money. So you can ask this person, because they see your transcript and your test scores and everything else, what do you think about our chances of getting scholarship money? So what happens is next, once you get all that information, you go to the second place, which is the financial aid office, and you say to the financial aid officer, here's my net price calculator. Are these numbers correct as far as you're concerned? What you are doing is this. When everyone's getting in the car at the end of the college tour, and then the student walks in the car and the parent gets in the driver's seat and they're turning the car on and they're asking the student, what do you think? And their student says, I love the college. This is definitely a school I want to apply to. That person who didn't do any of what I just told you to do is driving home wondering, can I afford this? Is this even possible? I just let my student fall in love with a college and I don't know financially anything. Horrible situation. Better situation, you did ask all those questions. You did bring all the documentation. You got all your questions answered. You're in the car understanding two things are going to happen here. One, I feel very comfortable with you applying here. Financially, this fits our affordability. Or two, I like the college as well, but let's be honest here. Unfortunately, the cost of the college is very expensive. I know we talked about this before because we did the net price calculator and we wanted to visit it to reinforce maybe you liked it or not. But if they don't come down to 30,000, if they don't come down to 40,000, if they don't come down to whatever your number is, we can't send you. That's an adult conversation with your adult student. That's what you need to do. Not the other parent driving home thinking, maybe I'll win the lottery, or maybe somehow they'll change financial aid, or maybe I'll fill out the FAFSA and everything will just work out, and maybe, etc. Maybe is not part of this equation. You need to understand at the college levels now, the prices they're basically shelling out for parents to pay, you need to have a game plan in place to be able to say to the student, yes, let's move forward, or no, we cannot move forward. There's no gray area. There's no praying. There's no hoping. It's not a hope scenario. This is we need to get numbers and items and situations in place that make sense. That's the way you guys need to do this. That's why the college tour is so important to do properly. Now, as I mentioned before, let's talk price, because colleges are getting very expensive. In fact, your cost will be, if you stay in the state you reside, whether it's New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, you will be paying between $16,000 to $40,000, all in, room, board, books, etc. That's like the public school in-state cost. Once you leave the state and go somewhere else, like a Penn State or a UConn or a UDEL, you're looking at price tags of $45,000 to $70,000. Once you're looking at the high elite colleges, you're looking at cost of basically all of them in the $70,000 to $100,000 camp right now. These prices you see here are from this year's academic term, which means all these prices will increase by 5%. So this is another reason I mentioned before that looking for safety schools, looking for affordable colleges is so important, because this could be a $400,000 project for you guys per one student, by the way, for 4 years. So understanding the numbers, understanding the situation you're getting involved in is hyper important now, because college costs are not going down. They're not going to go down. And I can say that almost without even a second's hesitation, because I've been doing this almost 30 years. And the 2007, 2008 recession, depression, housing crash, whatever you want to call it, they didn't go down. The 2000 NASDAQ crash, which basically sent everything tech related to almost nothing, colleges still went up. The 2020 pandemic, which shut down the entire world, colleges kept increasing the price. So they're not going to stop increasing. So your whole thing is figuring out who's the most affordable and who's not. And with that in mind, I am not telling you not to apply to these colleges. What I'm telling you is to do the homework, the net price calculators, to figure out the equations of what's affordable to you and what's not. Because some of the higher, more pricey schools are very affordable, believe it or not. In fact, here we have Harvard. I did their net price calculator, very simple, it takes like 10 minutes to do each one. And I plugged in, we're a family of four, one student going to college, and that we make $100,000 a year. And Harvard came back and said, based on your situation, your cost will be around $6,000. So basically nothing, to be honest with you, versus they cost almost $90,000. So the reality is the colleges at the highest levels are affordable in some cases. I'm not saying not to apply. What I'm saying is look at the price tags versus what they're able to give you, and then figure out what the remaining cost is, and does that make sense to you or not? Now, with that being said, let's talk about divorce, separation, separated, and remarried parents. Now, if you're separated or divorced, you're only counting one parent's financial situation on the FAFSA, just one. If you're a remarried, though, unfortunately, stepmom, stepdad's information, your information does get added into the equation of how much the family can afford to pay for that one student going to college. Now, if you are divorced and you're wondering who should claim the student, I would suggest utilizing the parent who has lesser income to claim the student from this perspective. Over the last 3 years, the FAFSA has looked to change their consideration of parent. 2 or 3 years ago, it was who does the student live with 51% of the time or more? That's the parent you can use. Last year, basically this year's FAFSA form, is asking who provides 51% of support or more. What they're trying to do, and what they've been trying to do for many years and haven't been able to do it successfully, is start looking to see who claims a student on the taxes as the parent they're going to utilize for the financial aid form, specifically the FAFSA. So if I'm doing 24 taxes and I'm divorced, I'm probably looking to put the parent that has lesser income, giving them the student on their taxes, at least for this year, maybe even 25, because that's the direction the U.S. Department of Education wants to go in, is utilizing the parent who claims a student to use on the FAFSA form. Now, let's talk about social media from this perspective. If your student has a YouTube account, or if they have TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or any of those things, and they're posting anything that's offensive or immature, and I mean offensive like in any facet in offensive, you got to make the site private. You just got to make it private. Admissions offices are going on the social media pages. They are going on there, and some of them have been saying they're going on there. So I like the fact that some are transparent, but they're not really transparent. Let me explain to you what I mean by not really transparent. When an admissions office says to you, we're looking at the social media pages to get a better perspective of the student, that's not why they're going on there. That's just a PR answer. Let me explain to you what they really mean when they say they're going on social media. What they're doing is they're looking for reasons to reject your student. Very simple, cut and dry. And let me explain to you why. Rutgers University had, I think, 130,000 applications. NYU, 110,000. Northeastern just broke 100,000. None of these colleges have ever seen these record number of applications coming in. So, since most of them are not increasing their admissions pools at all, as far as the reps in admissions to help out with the extra overflow, what happens? I am an admissions person. I get 2,000, 3,000 more applications. Am I really going to read your main essay, your supplemental essay, your recommendations, and everything else? Or am I going to start plugging in your name, your email, etc., into social media? Or if you gave me the handle, am I just going on social media and seeing anything offensive, anything immature? It's a lot easier for me to scroll through Facebook, Instagram, etc., and see something I don't like, reject it, rather than going through the process of reading all those essays, all those applications, all that resume stuff. A lot easier. Now, if your student says they don't want to make it private, very simple, don't pay the phone bill. And I say that half jokingly. It's really that dire. I've had admissions people, because I've been doing this many, many, many decades now, not many years, decades. I've been doing this decades, who've told me there were students that were accepted, then they saw something on social media, and they weren't accepted. And the crazy thing was those students never knew they were accepted yet, because they were still in the process of basically putting together the acceptance letter saying you got in. So when they got rejected, they had no idea that what they put on TikTok or Instagram is the reason that after 4 years of high school, they can't go to that college. Just things to think about, okay? Now, If you haven't already, we do have a newsletter I put out every month. The newsletter basically talks about everything. So if you want the newsletter, it goes out every month. I just need to know what grade level your student is in if you haven't signed up already. So if you want, email me and tell me, this is my high school, this is our student's grade level, so I know what newsletter to send you, because newsletters are grade specific. So the junior newsletter is different from the senior newsletter, etc. And once again, top right-hand corner of every slide is my email. Now, College Board of the website you talked about, the best resource you can utilize for college information. If you're looking for specific FAFSA information, I'd be looking to go to studentaid.gov. That's more information directly about the FAFSA. Also, for scholarship searches, FinAid, CapEx, and Going Merry. But for me, Going Merry is the #1 scholarship search out there. Going Merry, I believe, is the best opportunities and incorporates everything out there as far as the private scholarships. That's where I'd be going. If you're looking for more college content, more college information, once again, our YouTube channel, just type my name in and YouTube, Ed Zamora. Our channel pops up explaining basically everything admissions, financial aid related. I have videos on everything. On the main essay and the supplemental essays, early decision versus early action, financial aid forms, literally anything you think of question-wise. I've already made a video because I do so many of these presentations. Parents just ask me so many questions. I take those questions, make videos, and put them on YouTube for you guys to get more content, more information, as well as help us and give back to you guys in scholarships from you guys liking the videos, commenting on the videos, and sharing the videos, etc. Now, this entire process breaks down to doing this as a group project. Once again, do not allow the student to create the list and then hope and pray and maybe figure out later on how to afford this. This is not the way this works. You guys need to have discussion. You need to talk about everything. The cost of the college, the major consideration, and everything else happening in your household. Because if you don't, then you're really making it difficult on the student. From the perspective of, if you let them choose their list and they fall in love with 2 or 3 colleges, and then they get into those 2 or 3 colleges, and in the back of your mind, you know you cannot afford them, or they're way too expensive, or something doesn't make sense. Maybe they're way too far, whatever it is, but you never had a discussion. And then you want to have a discussion in March and April of senior year, you drop the ball tremendously. You need to have those discussions beforehand. This is the cost we feel comfortable with you taking out loans or us co-signing, because parents will have to co-sign. Students cannot take out loans by themselves. This is the distance we feel comfortable with, etc., etc. Have a discussion with them. I know you might think that, they're kids. I have kids, so I understand. But at some level, they are deemed an adult in the college process. So you must discuss this with them and talk to them as they're an adult. I know in your eyes, there will always be 3, 4 years old. But in real life, they're no longer 3, 4, or 5 years old. You have to have adult conversations with them about this, because as you mentioned, because as I showed you guys before, college costs are not going down. They're just going to accelerate higher and higher. So you need to have a serious discussion of what makes sense and what doesn't. So if you don't, you might fall into the trappings, unfortunately, that a lot of students do, where they go to the most shiny school and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a degree they could have got for a tenth of the price. Just things to think about. Okay. Now, if you need help in the process, once again, here's my contact information. The number down there is actually my cell phone number, which my wife thinks I'm out of my mind because I have literally hundreds of strangers texting me questions about everything of financial aid and admissions related all day long. But the fastest way to reach me is to text me. That's the number. If you want, you're more of a typing person, more, take your time. Then you can email me. That's our email here at Principia. You can email me any questions you guys have, or if you need help in the process or want to meet with me, you can either email me or send me a text message or even call me. Other than that, thank you everyone for jumping on the video here again. I appreciate everyone watching today.